Father Richard, is my audio clear? Father Richard, am I loud and clear? Father Richard, is my audio clear? Richard, am I loud and clear? Father, audio clear?
Hindi clear, Buds. Tsaka feedback.
Ayan. Ngayon, okay na?
Medyo okay na, pero nag-echo pa din ng konti.
Okay. Sana naman sa simbahan. So in few minutes, we shall start our recollection. So before we start, I'd like to introduce to you our speaker for this morning's recollection. Our speaker is a member of the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate. He acquired his STB degree, magna cum laude, at the Gregorian University in Rome, Italy. He finished his STL degree in sacramental theology, magna cum laude, at Ateneo Recollection de San Anselmo, Rome, Italy. He was ordained priest in 1980. And he was assigned in the Oblate College Seminary from in 1981 to 1989. And appointed superior of our Lady of Assumption Seminary in 1989 to 1993. He was a professor of theology both in the Oblate Seminary and in Meridian School of Theology. He was the provincial superior of the Oblates of Mary Immaculate Philippine Province in 1992 to 1999. He also taught in East Asian Pastoral Institute, Institute for Consecrated Life in Asia, and UNTES Asian Mission Center. He also preaches retreats in the country and abroad. In 2005, hindi ka nakasave yung audio sa wala. Oo nga. In 2005, the Father Phil decided to focus his ministry on the formation of the laity. So he designed a program for the laity, Journey to Freedom, an adult play spiritual reform. My dear brothers and sisters, please welcome our speaker, Father Philadelphia Phil Estrella, of the Oblates of Mary. Let's call me Phil. Okay, let's begin with a short one. You just follow the slides.
Good morning. You know, this is really, I was trying to figure out what to share with you. John told me that somebody got hold of my book, Embracing the Thorns of Our Hearts, and suggested that I say something about that. But I thought it has to be introduced by something else. So that's what I will do. But the introduction I'm going to give you to this book is really part of the other book. Hopefully it will come out in May. And it's the materials in that book is really materials I used when I was still teaching in France. And all my students were based in France. So this is part of that. But of course, it's very, very compact. And I won't be able to give you the book, but just introduce you to that. So I call this really the challenge to move from change to transformation. Because it's not just a question of change. Our whole objective is transformation. That's the objective of Christianity in every religion. It's not change, it is transformation. So to do that, we have to look at our inner landscape. That's why the inner landscape. So again, the challenge. Change is inevitable, but transformation is by conscious choice. I think that's very important. There's no way we can avoid change. We change physically, mentally, emotionally. Change. Everything changes. So Heraclitus is familiar. Heraclitus says the only thing that's constant is change. So that's the only thing, thing that is constant is change. So whether we like it or not, we change. But transformation is a conscious choice. You have to choose it. You have to desire it. You have to want it. Again, we have to make a big distinction between desire, deeper desire, and deepest desire. Big difference. You want to desire, I want to be chocolate. It's a desire. You want to be a doctor, that is or chocolate, or whatever profession. That's a deeper desire. But what is your deepest desire? That you cannot easily give an answer. You really have to sit and think, what is your deepest desire? And that's also the reason why many times we think that God is not responding to our prayer. Why? Because we are not expressing our deepest desire. God responds to our deepest desire. What an example, a good example of change, for example, is a New Year's resolution. New Year is coming and some people will be coming up with all kinds of resolutions. But New Year's resolutions are short-lived. You are forced, where you force yourself to do something until you can take it anymore. I'll give up smoking. Yeah, maybe for a month or 2 months, and after that you can't take it anymore. You will go back to smoking. That is change. It is short-lived battle of the human being. How about transformation? The best metaphor for transformation is, of course, a butterfly. A butterfly from a cocoon becomes a butterfly. Once it becomes a butterfly, it cannot go back to being a caterpillar. It cannot go back. And that's also the reason why a person cannot go back to the womb. Remember Nicodemus? Jesus was talking about being born again, which is transformation. It's not change. To be born again is transformation. And of course, Nicodemus was thinking in a very literal, physical way. How can I go back to my mother's womb? You enter into another womb, a different womb. So that is transformation. Unlike the caterpillar, transformation, you can opt out. You make a choice. You decide whether you want to continue the process of transformation. Maybe at a certain point in your life, he says, I can't do it. And they end on the process of transformation. So how does transformation happen? Because this is the objective of everybody, every person. How does it happen? The famous phrase that we use is, we have to make a journey from head to heart. An 18-inch journey, and yet the longest journey in a human being can make is only 18 inches. But it is the longest journey and the most difficult journey that any human being can take. Saint Augustine, of course, typifies that. Saint Augustine traveled all over in search of God, only to discover that at the end, God has already been there, has always been there. But very difficult, that journey. So, let me just put it properly, because this is what I'm about. The journey from head to heart. When I was teaching in France, I always begin my lecture this way. This program is for anybody, or person who has lived long enough, and when I say long enough, I mean 40 and above, and has made enough mistakes. So if you have not made any mistake, then you're not for this program. You have to acknowledge that. And of course, sinong tao hindi you all made mistakes in life. So this is the transformation. That's when I talk about the transformation. The journey from head to heart. It's a journey from false self to true self. The other day was like, yeah, what's the best translation for false self? Pagkukunwari. And true self, of course, is tunay na pagkatao. That phrase true self was, of course, popularized by a very famous monk by the name of Thomas Merton. Popularized that. But there are other words for it, true self. My favorite one is a French phrase. It's called le convient. This is the virgin point. The virgin point. Beautiful. You know, it's a Muslim phrase. It's a Muslim writer who coined that word. The virgin point. The other one, of course, is the seed of God. But the classical word is soul. That's the classical word for true self, is soul. So we journey from where, how, and let me explain that further. Okay. There are 3 levels in our journey. The outer level is, of course, the where. The second level is the how. And the ultimate goal, the end point of our journey is the circle at the center, the red one is the who. We are all in the how. The area of our life where we can exercise choices. And we all, the deepest desire is to move to where we want to be is the who. Failure to make this journey, because everyone is invited to make this journey. Everyone is invited. If you fail to make that journey, it will be tragic. And many people do not want to continue the journey from how to do. Why? Because it is a dangerous journey. It's a frightening journey. It is like Moses confronted by the burning bush. The burning bush. Take off your sandals. You are on sacred ground. We are entering the sacred ground. But failure to continue the journey is the price we have to pay. You know, this book is very interesting by Ronnie Ware. You can get it at the bookstore, international bookstore. I found this interesting book. Ronnie Ware is a nurse. She works in a hospice. And you know, hospice is people are just waiting to die. I had a chance to work in a hospice when I was in France. I was still a student at the time, trying to learn French, practice my French, and to work as a nursing aide in a hospice run by sisters. But Ronnie Ware works in a hospice, and she started interviewing these people, these patients, just waiting for the death. And the question that she asked is very simple. What are your regrets? As you come to the end of your life, what are your regrets? And then she collated the answers and came up with the top 5. It says, inauthentic life, unbalanced life, unexpressed life, an isolated life, and an unhappy life. Those are the regrets of most people who are waiting. They never really express who they are. They try to cope. They simply try to cope with the expectations of others. How many of us live our life trying to cope with the expectations of others? From childhood. Or unbalanced life, spending too much time in work and neglecting our family. You know, we could be climbing the ladder of success. And as we reach the top of the ladder, we look down and our family is gone. Unexpressed life, isolated and lonely life. You don't have friends. And happiness, because happiness is a choice. You have to choose who you have. So let's look at these circles now. The where circle, what is the where circle? Those are the things that can no longer be changed. That's the givenness. For example, you're born a man. You're not a woman, but of course today that can change also, you know. But you're from Bulacan or you graduated from the school. Those are the things that happen. There are the facts and givens of life. You can no longer change. That's where you are. That's also the thing that we submit when we apply for work. The curriculum vitae, the CV. Those are the facts of your life, your achievements. That's where you are. The how, on the other hand, is your situation where you make choices in life. And some of those choices you make you miserable. Wrong husband, wrong wife, wrong profession, wrong, you made a choice. This is the area where you exercise your freedom to make a choice. This is also the problem I always make when I was teaching in France. I also say, this is our problem in the church. Remember the sexual scandal that happened. So there is this priest who is assigned in this parish, created a scandal, and the bishop simply puts him in another parish. The same problem happens. He says, it will never change. Changing assignment is not going to change the person. The only way for the person to change is to enter into another circle of confront himself. But if you remain on the how, you just keep going around the how, making wrong choices in life. And that's why, we are priests here, pastors, and, we counsel married couples. What is so amazing when the counsel married couples is that they separated from their husband who is a drunkard and have another relationship with the same problem. You know why? Because there is a pattern in our decisions. There is a pattern. That's the reason why we go on retreat. To see the pattern of our decision. There is a pattern. Whether you like it or not, there is a pattern. And if you tend to see the pattern, the way you make decisions, it will be a tragic life. You know, I was counseling a woman who's about to start a relationship with my friend. My friend is separated from his wife. And this woman married somebody from the north, northern part, not exactly, opposite part. And then they separated. And then she moved to Canada and lived with a Pakistani doctor who is very rich. And now wants to separate with him because she found my friend. So I talked with them. So I told this woman, I said, you know, before you start another relationship, I said, look into the way you make decisions. Your marriage did not work out the first time. You know what? Well, no, it was just, where was this pressure? But my parents, okay. The second one in Pakistan, why do you want to separate it? It's so boring. I don't imagine. Using that word boring to get basis of something. What do you mean boring? Are you looking for sex experience? Is it a valid boring? I mean, it's not unreading. You know, but then I said, you know, if you ever have a relationship with this friend of mine, it's not going to work. The same thing will happen. But it's a pattern of the way we make decisions. You really have to look at the pattern. And that's where you are, where most of us are, in the household. Because when we make decisions, keep this in mind. Make this a mantra. Choices turn into habits. Habits become character. Keep that in mind. Choices turn into the way you make choices, the way you make decisions, it becomes a habit. And that's the reason why I say it's a pattern. And the saddest thing is this habit becomes your character. Thus becomes sad. If the choices you make are not good, then your habits are not good. And then you become a bad person. Choices turn into habits. Habits become. How about the whole circle? The center of this. When you move, when you journey from how to move, I said everyone is invited to make this journey, but not everybody had the courage to enter into it. It's a sacred ground. It's frightening, unknown. But the more you move closer to the who circle, the more you become. Thomas Merton says, the more we become who we truly are, the more we become mental. When we discover who we really are, we discover that. We discover that. At the whole circle, we begin to see clearly my folks. Now you can compare when you enter the whole circle, your true self, and you look back at the how of yourself. You can see the discrepancy, the falsity, the fakeness of yourself before moving to the. And you know, I met so many people who would say, I knew that's when I was young. Well, I can give myself as an example. You know, you can give myself as an example. You know, that was never I can put that other. When I was young, even when I was a 7, when I speak, my classmates would say, oh, the ex-cathedral will speak. You know, ex-cathedral. When the Pope speaks at wrong time, it's on the chair. That's important. So they always say that when I speak, it's ex-cathedral. So I'm not in a sort of time. I was really so sick. And looking back, I'm now 70 years old. And that's probably, and the reason for that is this, at such a young age, I was already looked upon as the future of the province. Brilliant, expectations. When I became provincial at the age of 39, and I ended after 7 years, that's when I felt the weight and the pressure of coping with expectations. I was not smiling anymore at that time. I was getting sick. That's when I realized. And that's why when I look back at that stage of my life in a how, this is how I describe it. It was the greatest performance of my life. I was performing. I was performing at the people who looked up to me and idolized me, admired me. It was a great performance. And in many ways, I succeeded. When I give retreats around the world, different countries, especially to priests, and I say, I never campaigned that I would be provincial. I knew I would become one. And they all laughed. They all laughed. They thought I was joking. No, I wasn't joking. I knew I would become provincial. I knew I would become head of the business. I wasn't confident. Of course, the price to be paid. The price to be paid. So, now, the person who lives of sin, the false self, the good and bad consequences of it, because that's the area in your life where you make choices. Because God gave us a very important gift, and that is freedom. That is the most precious gift of God to us. I say, God knows everything except one thing. He does not know how we would respond to it. He doesn't know. Why? Because He gave up that and gave us the freedom to make. God does not know whether we will say yes to Him or no to Him. And it's a painful thing, and yet that is a clear sign of true love or real love. Vulnerability. God decided to be vulnerable. Just as parents. You are parents. You are a parent. One time I asked some parents, do you still remember the first time your son or daughter said no to you? Yes, ma'am. And how did it feel? Painful, for me. He said, when he said, okay, we go to church this Sunday. No, I'm not going. We visit your grandma this next day. No, I'm not going. I'm not going. Do this. It was just, no, I'm just being asked to. That's very painful. And yet, accepting your vulnerability is a manifestation of real love. Because parents would rather make their children robots who will obey everything that we say. But that's not a human being. That's a robot. But for human being to be human being, they have to exercise faith. And that's also the reason why forgiveness is woven into the very fabric of creation. When God created us, forgiveness was already factored because He knows we are unfinished products. And that's why I like the Tagalog word. The Tagalog word is pagkatao. Pagkatao. Of course, the English is personal. The Tagalog word is moitanem, dynamic. We were born out, but our pagkatao is a lifetime process, journey we have to make. So we are never complete. And because we are never complete, we are in the process. We will make mistakes. We will fall. We will sin. God knows that. That's why, again, I say, forgiveness is woven into the very fabric of creation. He gave us that gift. So the most important question in spiritual life is not, are you happy? God is not. That is not the question. That is not the most important question in spiritual life. I believe. The most important question is spiritual life is, are you free? Are you free? Because I want that to be free. That's why St. Ignatius has this spiritual exercises to help us make the right decision in life by moving into the point of indifference. That's a very classic word, misunderstood now. But today we would rather use the word inner freedom rather than difference, inner freedom rather than difference. Because inner freedom is the true case of a true spirituality. Why? Because a lot of choices that we make in life is we have ulterior motives. We have our, we're either protecting our interests, protecting someone's interest. That's why I said, land reform will never happen. Why? Because the congressmen, the people in Congress who make the law, will never make it. Why? Because they're protecting their interests. There are landholders. But you can look at it also from our point of view. The choices that we make. Especially if you are in charge of something that handles around people. Always ask, what is the consequence of my decision to the life of this people that is under me? What is the consequence? Because most of our decisions are based on self-interest, protecting my interest or protecting somebody's interest. We want to be. So that is the gauge of a true spirituality is spiritual freedom. The false stuff, when you're trying to impress people, there is a good thing about it. It gives you self-confidence, like, I'm old now, and almost semi-retired, and the former provincial was like, Phil, can you handle this? I said, no, I've done my part. Give it to the young homeless. They need it. They need to build confidence. They can be in charge. That's important in giving to the young people. You have to give them responsibility. You have to give them titles. That's a false self. But it is necessary, right? It's necessary. But the downside of false self is it leads to pretensions and arrogance. Like the example I gave you, for years as a person, it gave me confidence. I was so confident. But looking back, I said it was a great performance. I was performing. It was not my authentic self. Or you become arrogant. How do you gauge somebody's arrogant? How do you detect somebody's arrogant? Look at the way he treats people under him. And look at the way he behaves when talking with somebody about him. That is a good case of arrogance. Really a person's arrogance. By the way he treats people whom he thinks is under him. And the way he behaves when he is in front of somebody above him. So, what are the 4 big mistakes of false self? It takes an unrealistic version of a role. It is a mask or made-up persona. Pretension. It confuses me with the mask. I cannot take the mask anymore. There was a book written in 1970, Why I Am Afraid to Tell You Who I Am. Power, something like that. It was very famous in the 70s. But it talks about that. the refusal to reveal yourself, because if I reveal my true self, you will not like me. Number 8, it thinks I will be only loved if I am wearing a mask. So you pretend. It then defends the mask below its power, because it believes that to lose its outer image is threat to death. Once I take off my mask, reveal who I am, that's it, that's the end of me. I will not be accepted anymore, because you are accepted only because of my mask. So that's a right question. How are you? So I'm asking you, how are you? Are you sick? Mad? Are you sleeping? Are you happy? You feel super good, okay, I'm sad. Or maybe so-so, I'm so-so. Or I'm okay. And that's the biggest lie, to say that you're okay. Why? Because behind the word I'm okay, it's I am broken. I can keep pretending. So obviously, truthfulness, because these are signs of psychological, emotional, and spiritual maturity. Honesty. So gauge yourself from 1 to 10. How happy are you? And you can also gauge yourself how free are you. Gauge it from 1 to 10, how free are you. And these are good things to keep in mind. You know, if you are not free, look at this. You feel a heaviness of your heart. These are what I call experiences of unfreedom, or indignation, words, disordered or inordinate attachments. Disordered or inordinate attachment. Today we speak of addiction. The scripture calls it slavery. Freedom from what? Freedom from those habits of thought and action that hold us in chain. So look at your thoughts. You know, there's an author by the name of Helpline. You can get this book from our books, The Power of Now. It's an interesting book because it says, you know what? It said, the human mind is capable of doing only two things. The human mind is capable of doing only two things. What? It's constantly reprocessing the past or anxious about the future. But being present, and we know that. We know that because to be present is so difficult. So Thomas Merton asked a Buddhist monk when he was attending a conference in Bangkok, where he died. He asked this monk, how do you train your students to be contemplative? And the answer of the monk was very interesting. He says, unless you can open the door quietly, you cannot be contemplative. Think about that. When you create noise, it's because you are not mindful. Your mind is somewhere else. Look at people in the dining hall when they stir their coffee. If they make noise, because they are mindless. They're talking and not realizing that they making so much noise. Or when they get out of the chair, pull the chair, they create noise because they are not mindful. So when you create noise, it's because you are not present. You are someone else, thinking something else, rather than what you're doing. So what are your thoughts and habits and actions that are unfree? Freedom from ego-centered activities and ambitions. Our ambitions can hold us unfree. Freedom from various forms of escape, alcohol, sexual acting out, gambling, eating disorders, and even workplace. These are unfreedom experiences, or even our emotions. Freedom from being controlled by danger, by jealousy, by envy, love, anger. Anger, when it is prolonged, is called resentment. And when you reach the age, 17, and you still have not forgiven people, and you keep nurturing the hurt that you experienced 30 years, 40 years ago. This is the tragedy when you die. When you die, the embalmer will have great difficulty making you smile. Pushing you off. Hard face. So what are those emotions? Hatred, jealousy, envy, sloth, pride, anger. Are they still there? You're not free. So the journey of purification will develop good in us. The more you remove those freedom experiences, the more you allow the good to surface, to show, to manifest. And that is the challenge. The challenge is to remove those things. Remove those things from your life. Scrape them away. What is unnecessary and unimportant. And ridding yourself of anything that weighs you down. Whether you are held tight to a rope or whether you are tied to a string, it doesn't make any difference. You still cannot fly. Whether it's a rope or a string, you still cannot fly. So questions? What area or areas in your life you experience unfreedom? What enslaves you? What are your addictions? How unfree are you? How unfree are you? Or to put it in another way, what is your handicap? And what is the meaning of handicap? Handicap is a circumstance that makes progress difficult or a condition that restricts the person's ability to function. So we all have handicap. But identifying them is very important. Now, after this, if ever I come back here, then that's the time to talk about the thorns of our hearts. Thank you. What I try to do, these are the thorns of our hearts, the pains of the past, the sufferings of the present times, and anxiety about the future. Everybody has that. It's a matter of perspective. Is there another way of looking at the past, the present, and the future? Can you look at it differently? It's a matter of learning how to see rightly, fully, and truthfully. God wisely makes the problem itself part of the solution. God wisely makes the problem itself as part of the solution. Think about it. Thank you.
Father Bill, in behalf of the Philippine officers, wives, husbands, institution, counselors, I'd like to present you, give you this token, as well as our gift to you, for giving us your time, your wisdom, knowledge, for facilitating this.
Most welcome. St. Paul's. St. Paul's bookstore. It's received an award. It received an award last year. And the second book was supposed to come out for my 40th anniversary as a priest last year, but COVID came and Singapore told me, they only have 50%, workforce, and they only report three times a week. So, but the last time they called me about 2 weeks ago, they said they'll really try to bring it out, the two books, next May. I hope if nothing happens. Because the one I presented to you, sorry, the one I presented to you at the beginning is really from the second book. But the circle thing. Ano po?
So for our election model, we'll be using those questions for our freedom and
For our maybe we have to separate it. Do you have questions? Yes. For the last 2 years, we learned the lesson of COVID-19. This pandemic came. So my constant question to God is, don't reveal to us the message of this. Because, in the same relationship, God does not, suffering does not come from God. That is the reason why the gospel of Mark is said to grapple with the issue of suffering, which has never been answered. Why is there suffering? But one thing clearly Mark is this. Mark did not resolve the issue, but he made this right discussion. Suffering does not come from. How can you possibly explain the suffering? But God answered. Now, COVID-19 did not come from. It did not come from. It is a virus that has really gone out of control. So, what is the lesson? Why is that not? What is the lesson? I was wrong. I have given so many talks of COVID-19 because the season of COVID and what is been happening. There was listening to CNN. For the first time, finally, the leaders of this world, especially the first one, realized we cannot resolve this issue until we work as a global community. So now they are setting up a commission, global. We can no longer think in terms of nationality and pride. It has to be global. Because no one is, the United States will never be safe until Africa is safe. What's the vaccination rate in Africa? 3%. United States is already doing boosted shots. The distribution or allowing big companies to reproduce the vaccine. Why is Pfizer, why is AstraZeneca, why is Johnson & Johnson trying to control the production of vaccine? But it's the whole world that needs it. In other words, there are no boundaries. There are no boundaries. This virus is going to kill all of us. But The virus, this is not the first virus. There has been through the history of the world, that has killed thousands. But for the first time, we realize that we have to work as one. That is the lesson. For me, that is a very strong lesson. Whether the leaders who are now working on this commission, global commission, understand that, but that's how we do it. That's my question. Finally, leaders need to realize, and Africa said, Europe and the United States and all these countries that we have this. So now, in the newspaper, the United States is going to send 9 million vaccines. But that is some a much more sensitive, virtually a 1 million. So that is any situation, you have to understand what is consequence. Because in every problem, there are 3 things that you have to answer, whether it's a family problem, personal problem, family problem, national problem, global problem. First, what is the challenge being presented? What is the challenge? Not the challenge. What is the opportunity? And what is the gift? The gift of the problem. I'll give you an example. I have a very rich friend, the eldest son is they're very rich. The eldest son is challenge. He was talking to the father. And of course, being a father tries to his perspective. My son was set up by his cousin. Business competition. That's his. Whether it's for being on hand. That's how it's. But anyway, one time I was in the church in Green Meadows, and I was about to celebrate some blessing in the sacristy, and he came in. Looked at me, and of course, every time I see what's the situation, how's the case now? And I said, say, but I'm so worried about my life. She's so big now. And how do we do it? But can I say? I was ready to go towards this to the altar. And as I walked out of this, I heard him groan. A groan is not a cry. A groan comes from the gut, comes out muffled. So he said, Lord, what's the meaning of this? I wasn't at the moment, should I turn back and try to control it? I wasn't at the moment, what am I going to say? So I just went. That night I was thinking what should I have done. If I went back to him, these are the things that I said. You cannot answer this question. It will take time. What is the challenge being presented? Your family. What is the project? What is the game? Because until you're able to answer those questions, you begin to feel the guts of answering the question in your prayer. And yet, the answer of God is precisely contained in those 2 questions. Maybe as a family, they don't see each other anymore. They probably don't get together. Maybe a typical family, everybody's family. Maybe China is. Hey, look at your family. What's happening? What's happening? You are the priorities. And the opportunities will be appreciated. The family, your children. And that is a creating a new life. But that's not going to happen tomorrow, next week. It's time. Because the problem and the pain has to go through that. You cannot solve. People who are in suffering, they have to go through the process of suffering. Because if you don't go through the process of suffering, You don't learn the lesson. You don't learn the lesson. They learn. Then after a day or two, a week, they start talking to each other as if nothing happened. Nobody said sorry. Nothing here. So it's gonna happen again. It's not. The same process. Same situation. So it's contained. That's what I mean. The solution is contained in the problem. And very important to take into this. Spirituality is always happening. It's not spirituality is not happening when you're praying the rosary or praying the Medina. Let's talk about that much. Spirituality is always happening in one way. Once you identify the area of your life where you are struggling, that's when God is most present, most involved. If you are going through a marriage problem, that is where God is most involved. Like any parent, if you have a child who is problematic, who is a drug addict, the parents don't sleep. They can hardly work. They can hardly, because the parents are very involved in the problem of their son. And the same thing with God. Once you identify the area of your struggle, that's where God, that's where you find God. Very, very much. That's spirituality. And that's why spirituality is always.
Okay.
Second topic. You know, I think there's a problem. Where did you get this?
In Shopee, Father.
Siya. Alam mo, yan ang, kasi I was giving a retreat sa mga pari sa Davao. May nga problema, nawawala. It is the HDMI.
So, Father.
You have to get a good HDMI.
Before we part, Father, i-introduce ko lang po yung mga nandito. Ayan, kasi para sa Father, Father Chip Chaplin po. Father Eugene Casmedia po, ang post Chaplin dito. Father Joey Sete, cancer programs. Si Ma'am Adet po, the wife of Kamilagan, ang Chip Chaplin Father Leonard Tangma. Mamariano po, Pastor.
Sino sila?
May binyag po at 10 o'clock sa
Merong ano?
Recollection po na po. Binyag. Online po si Ma'am Shan at saka si Father Busaco po. From Zamboanga and from Sambales.
Hello po, Father. Hello, everyone. Yan. Pasensya na po at bantay po dito sa hospital.
You're in the hospital.
Opo.
So,
Try to get hold of your sister.
say po.
Ano pa po bigyan gusto ko, Father?
Maybe, Father, we can have another session with the chaplains virtually. Opo. Oo.
Let's have a picture taking. Okay. Okay. So you're going to have sharing now.
Sharing now. We still have staying until mga 10:30 siguro. Reflections on just pick up from your questions on how what to do, and hindi na lang natin Father.
Did you find my talk relevant?
Very relevant, Father.
Work.
Very relevant, Father. Kasi we will be working as counselors for the PNOWHA. Kailangan din namin humugot na.
Now, you will notice, of course, that most of the problems will be because of the health. They are all in the front. Decision making.
But I can we ask for your help. The lecture that you gave,
Yeah.
okay lang po ba?
Sure. Sure, sure.
Thank you very much, Father. Yeah. Talaga po, walang
So,
sige po.
so naka-online pa rin tayo.
Online pa rin po.
Okay, so, pwede bang, I need a coffee. Yes, coffee.
Dito na tayo, Father.
Hello po, yung nasa online. We will be observing 15-minute break. Oo.
May break.
May break kasi po. Kasi si Father asked for coffee. So, magbe-break muna yung mga pare. But we
So
will
may part 2.
part 2 is the reflection na ma'am, no? Father, reflection about yung questions na ni-raise ni Father. So we can also absorb it and digest it to ourselves. Sige, ma'am, 15
Okay.
minutes break lang. Thank you.
Thank you, Det.
Sean, nandiyan ka pa? Sean. 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 Nag-break. Okay. Yun, 15-minute break lang.
Hello.
Sino ba yung isa, Father? Dalawa lang sila nag-online. Si Ma'am Shan, ay si Ma'am Bordado, hindi na rin.
Opo.
Oo. So, di ba, they're, ano kasi, si Ma'am Shan kasi is looking forward dun sa sharing din.
Sige, ano na lang natin.
So,
Chat na natin sila.
Na i-stop mo na and then
Opo.
proceed na lang. Sige, Father, alamin ko.
Ma'am Shan. Ma'am
Hi,
Shan.
Father. Yes po.
Ma'am, mag-end ko muna tong meeting kasi lilipat na kami doon sa PNGC.
Okay.
O,
Sige.
i-online ko
Sige
na
lang.
lang doon ulit.
Opo, more or less mga how many minutes bago ako mag-join ulit?
Ano lang, i-monitor na lang sa group chat, ma'am.
Sige po. Okay po, Father.
Hindi ko alam kung hanggang kailan yung usap-usapan nila doon.
Okay po.
Sige,
Sige
ma'am.
po.
Opo,
Okay
opo.
po. Thank you, Father.
Okay po, ma'am. Bye-bye po.
Bye-bye.